Hi friends, this is Salujan here. Welcome to my networking channel. Hope all are doing good. And today the topic I am going to discuss about how to configure GRE tunnel in a Fortigate firewall. So before that, let's understand what is GRE. GRE is a generic routing encapsulation which more or less functions like a VPN. It is used for connecting two private networks. These are the two private networks over a public network. We call it as a GRE. So it is more or less acts like a VPN but without encryption. Okay, that is the purpose of GRE, and at the transmitting end it will perform the encapsulation, and at the receiving end it will perform the decapsulation. Okay, so today let us see how we can configure the GRE tunnel in a Fortigate firewall. So for that I have connected three firewall 1, 2 and 3. So firewall 1 and 3 I'm going to use as a private network. So this interface IP is 192.168.10.1 and this will be 192.168.20.1. So these two are the private networks, and I'm connecting these two private network over a public network. So for that we need to secure the traffic over a public network. Okay, for that is the purpose of using the GRE tunnel. Okay, so it is a secure path over a public network. Okay, and so for that I have connected three firewall 1, 2 and 3. So this interface IP is 10.1 and 10.2. This is 20.1 and 20.2, and two firewall 1 and 3 I have connected PC1 and PC2. So this will be 30.2 and this will be 40.2. Okay, so this is the tunnel, GRE tunnel between the firewall 1 and 3. That IP is tunnel IP is 192.168.254.1 and other end is 254.2. So from the configuration perspective, what are things I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to configure the GRE tunnel on both this firewall 1 and 2. Then I will be configuring this system interface. So through this system interface, I will map the GRE tunnel. Then we'll configure the route and the policies. So these are the basic configuration I'm going to do. So let us now go to the configuration for a better understanding. So first let us quickly configure this directly connected interfaces on all this firewall. Okay, so then we'll configure the GRE tunnel. Okay, so let us go to the firewall 1 and let us log in with the credentials admin, and the password is port. And now let us configure. So config system interface. Okay, edit port 1, and set mode is static. Then we'll assign a static IP, that is 10.1. Okay, set IP 192.168.10.1/24 and set allow access ping. So I'm allowing the ping access. Then let us save the configuration. Okay, so let us view the configuration. Show system interface port 1. So this is the configuration I'm going to do. So in similar way I'm going to configure for, so similar way, let us configure for firewall 2. It has two interfaces, 10.2 and 20.2. So let us finish up configuring all these directly connected interfaces. Then we'll configure these parameters. Okay. So let us go to firewall 2. So this same configuration, config system interface, edit port 1, and the IP will be 10.2. Okay. So this IP will be 10.2. Okay. And set allow access ping. So just copy this and paste it on the second firewall. Okay, so now we have to change the mode to static modes. Okay, that I have to change it. So here we have to change the set mode as static. So by default it will be in DHCP mode. So let us copy this again and let us paste it on the second firewall. Okay, so we are done with the first interface configuration. This port 1 and port 2 is 20.2. So accordingly we'll edit the configuration. So edit port 2, mode is static and the IP is 20.2. Just copy it and paste it on the second firewall. So we are done with the firewall second interface configuration also. So now we'll configure firewall 3, that IP is 20.1 for port 2. Okay, so port 2 and the IP is 20.1. So this will save the time also. Okay, go to firewall 3 and log in with the credentials and paste it the configuration. So now, so this port 3 I have to configure. Okay, this firewall 1 I have connected to PC1 and firewall 3 I have connected to PC2. So this is connected to port 3. So this IP is 30.2. So this will be 30.1 and this end the gateway is 40.1. So let us finish off that configuration. Okay, so port 3 is 30.1. So port 3, okay, 30.1, and let us copy it and paste it on the which firewall? That is firewall 1. Okay, so let us go here, that is port 3, and similar manner for firewall 3, this gateway is 40.1, that is port 3, 40.1. Okay, so just copy it and paste it on the third firewall. So we have done with the basic interface configuration. Now let us check the connectivity from firewall 1 to 10.2 and firewall 3 to 20.2. Okay, for the testing connectivity. So do execute ping 192.168.10.2. I am able to reach, and also from firewall 3, let us check 20.2. So execute ping 192.168.20.2. So I'm able to reach, and also from the PC, let us check the gateway connectivity. 30.2, the gateway is 30.1, and this gateway is 40.1. So let us check the basic ping connectivity first, then we'll go with the GRE tunnel configuration. Okay, so ping 192.168.30.1. I'm able to reach the gateway from the second PC 192.168.40.1. That also we have done with the basic interface configuration. Now let us go ahead with the GRE tunnel configuration. So this GRE tunnel configuration I am going to perform on firewall 1 and firewall 3. Let us go. Go to firewall 1. The configuration is config system GRE tunnel. Okay, so in this tunnel what I am going to do, I am going to set the, okay, so go to edit and we have to name the tunnel. What is the tunnel name? So let us name it as tunnel 12. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to add the local and the remote gateway. So the local gateway will be this 10.1. This is a local gateway. Okay, and the remote gateway is 20.1. Since I am connecting these two private networks over a public network, so the gateway will be 10.1, remote gateway will be 20.1. So that we have to configure. Okay, set local gateway is 192.168.10.1 and set the remote gateway as 192.168.10.20.1 and let us save the configuration. Okay, so the first part configuration is over. We have configured the GRE tunnel on firewall 1. Similar way from the firewall 3, the source is 20.1 and the remote gateway is 10.1. Okay, so just go to firewall 3, config system GRE tunnel and edit the name, tunnel name, add the name as tunnel 12 and set the local gateway from firewall 3. The gateway is 192.168.20.1 and the remote gateway is 192.168.10.1. So we have done with the first and the second tunnel configuration, and now we can view the configuration is show system GRE tunnel. So these are the configuration we did. Okay, local is 10.1, remote is 20.1. Similar way for firewall 3, the configuration is local is 20.1 and the remote is 10.1. Okay, so we have configured the gateway. So now let us go to the system interface. Then we have to configure the tunnel. I have to map this tunnel. So and then we have to set the interfaces. Okay, so let us go to the primary firewall 1. So config system interface. Okay, so then edit tunnel. So it will ask which tunnel you are going to edit tunnel 12. So that is the tunnel I am going to create between the firewall 1 and 3. This IP I am going to map it. Okay, that is the tunnel IP I am going to set it. So edit tunnel 12. Okay, so now set the IP. So this IP should be this tunnel IP. This is a virtual IP I'm going to set between firewall 1 and 3, virtual IP, right? So 192.168.254.1/32. Okay, and set allow access ping. So I'm going to enable the ping access also, save the configuration. So one more thing is pending. So while setting this tunnel, always you have to set the remote IP. Okay, tunnel remote IP is set remote IP is 192.168.254.2/32 and save the configuration. Oh, okay, so one more thing is pending. We have to set the interface. Okay, so go to config system interface, edit tunnel 12 and set the IP as 192.168.254.1/32 and set the remote IP as 192.168.254.2/32 and set the allow access as ping One more thing what I told is we have to set the interface, that is port 1. Okay, set interface port 1 and now save the configuration. So now let us view the configuration. Show system interface tunnel 12. This is the way we can view it. So the tunnel IP is 254.1 virtual IP, 254.2 is a remote IP, and the interface is port 1. This is the interface, port 1. Similar way, let us configure this same tunnel configuration on firewall 3 also. First, we have configured the GRE tunnel. Second thing, we have mapped the tunnel in the system interface command. Similar configuration I need to perform on firewall 3 also. Okay, so let us go to firewall 3. So config system interface, edit the tunnel name, add the tunnel. Okay, now set the local IP. So set IP is 192.168.192.168.254.2/32 and set the remote IP as 192.168.254.1/32 and now set the interface. What interface is I'm going to map is port 2. This interface port 2. Okay, and set the ping access. Set allow access is ping and now save the configuration. Okay, so these are the configuration we have done with the GRE tunnel configuration system interface. So now what are the things pending is we have to configure the things pending. We have to configure a static route to the remote network and also we have to configure the policy. From the port 1 to port 2 communication, I have to configure a policy in this intermediate firewall. Okay, so let us now go one by one. So let us go to the firewall 1 and let us view the routing table. So get router info routing table all. So you are able to see the 10 network and the 30 network. So 10 network and the 30 network, but you are not able to see this remote network 20 network. So and also we can add this remote also 40 network and the 20 network I am not able to see. So now let us set the remote particular. Okay, let us set the static route to this remote network pointing this as a gateway, 10.2 as a gateway, right? So let us go here. The command is config router static. Okay, add the first entry, set the destination. So what is the destination? So the destination is 20 network and the 40 network. Okay, so 192.168.20.0/24 and set the gateway as 192.168.10.2 as per the architecture 10.2 and set the device. So this interface is port 1. Okay, so that's the thing I'm going to map port 1, then do next. So that means I'm going to add a second entry for this particular 40 network. I hope you're following this. Okay, so set destination 192.168.40.0/24 and set destination 192.168.40.24. Okay, so we have to add the second entry. Okay, so that we have missed it. Okay, edit 2. So edit 2, that's the thing you are seeing the error, edit 2. And now let us add the entry. Set destination 192.168.40.0/24 and the gateway is the same gateway 10.2. Okay, set the gateway as 192.168.10.2 and set again device as port 1 and save the configuration. So now let us check the static entries. Okay, how to check? Show router static and enter the configuration. There are two entries to 20 network and the 40 network with 10.2 as the gateway. So we successfully added the static entries. Similar manner, let us add a static entry for firewall 3 also, because firewall 3 is aware of this network 20 network and 40 network, but it is not aware of 10 and 30 network. So let us add a static route to this remote destination network with this 20.2 as a gateway. Okay, so let us go to firewall 3. Okay, so the command is config router static. Just I'm adding a static route. Edit 1. Set the destination network. So destination network is 10 network, right? So 192.168.10.0/24 and set the gateway as 192.168.20.2. Okay, 192.168.20.2 and set the device as what device it is, port 2. Hope you are following this, right? Port 2. Similar way, go to next and add a second entry for this particular network 30 network. This is not aware. Okay, PC network. Next, edit 2. That means I'm adding a second entry and set the destination as 192.168.30.0/24, this network, okay, and set again the gateway as 192.168.20.2, and now set the device is again port 2, so this port 2, okay. So now let us save the configuration and view the configuration. Show router static. So there are two entries, one is 10 network and also the 30 network with this particular gateway, 20.2 as a gateway. So now we are done with the static entries, route configuration also. So now one more thing is pending, only policy. So only the policy configuration is pending. So prior to the configuration, now let us ping the remote entry from firewall 1 to this particular entry, 20.1. Okay. So let us go to firewall 1. So execute ping 192.168.20.1. So whether I am able to reach, not, right? Similar way, let us see 20.2. I am not able to reach. So that means, as I told already, this particular firewall to intermediate firewall, I have to add a policy for the configuration from port 1 to port 2. So let us go ahead and configure the firewall policy. So these two things are always mandatory as per GRE tunnel configuration is concerned. One is adding a static route and add a policy. Okay. So go to firewall 1, firewall 2. This is an intermediate firewall. Admin configuration. Why? Because from the communication from this network to this network, we have to add a policy. There are two policy. One policy from port 1 to port 2 and the second policy from this network to particular 10 network. Okay. So let us add a policy. So go to config firewall policy. Okay, add as first entry, set the source interface, that is port 1, and set the destination interface as port 2. Okay, and set the source address as all and set destination address as all. So these are the default parameters you have to define. Okay, source interface, destination interface, source address, destination address, and we have to set the schedule as always and set the action as accept. So set the service as all. Okay, instead of ICMP service, I'm doing just all service, and source and destination, or these all are default parameters. Only thing concern is we have to specify the source and the destination interface, and let us save the configuration. Okay, show firewall policy. So if you want, we can add this configuration in a notepad so that it will be easy to apply on the remaining firewall, right? So let us add it. Let us remove this UID. Okay, so now let us go ahead. So config firewall policy, right? So now I'm going to add a second entry. Got it, right? So the first entry from port 1 to port 2, second entry, only thing I am going to add the source and the destination interface. So the source is port 2 and the destination is port 1. So remaining all are same. So that's the reason I done this. Control C and paste it on my intermediate firewall and save the configuration. So now for our reference, let us view the configuration. Show firewall policy. So you're able to see, right? One is port 1 to port 2. Okay, this we have to change the destination. So config firewall policy, edit to second entry, set the destination as port 1. Save the configuration. Now let us view the configuration. Show firewall policy. Okay, so this policy already aware of what are things we have to configure. This always a mandatory parameter. Source is port 1 to port 2 and here port 2 to port 1. These are the two entries for allowing between this communication. So now let us do a ping from this firewall 1 to this remote firewall. Okay, 20.1 IP. So let us ping 20.1. So now let us do a ping. I'm able to ping the remote interface IP, that is 20.1, and also let us check this interface, GRE tunnel interface. Okay, so execute ping 192.168.254.2, and also one also I'm able to reach. That means this connectivity is working perfectly. Now we have to see from this host perspective. So now let us check from firewall 3 also. Let us ping the remote interface. Okay, firewall 3. So execute ping 192.168.254.1. That is my remote GRE interface IP I'm able to reach. And how about the this interface 10.1, right? Execute ping 192.168.10.1. So now the connectivity is working fine from firewall 1 to firewall 3. That means the GRE is working fine. So now we have to see from this host perspective, right? From firewall, from PC1, I should reach this PC2. So let us check the PC connectivity. So ping 30.1. So that is my gateway, right? 30.1 is a gateway. Let us now ping 10.1. Okay. So execute, it is ping 10.1. So that means still I am not able to reach this 10.1 from PC1, right? So let us check from PC2 to 20.1. Let us go to PC2. So ping 192.168.20.1. So that also I am not able to reach. Why? Because similar way we have to configure the policy in this particular firewall 1. Okay, so in this firewall 1, I have to configure the same policy for allowing from port 1 to port 3 and port 3 to port 1 communication. So these two things I have to configure for firewall 1. Similar way for firewall 3 also I have to allow this communication. Port 2 to port 3. You are able to see, right? So that is the reason I am not able to ping this interface. So now let us correct that policy. I need to add this policy for firewall 1 and firewall 3 for this communication, port 1 to port 3. That is the reason from this interface I am not able to ping this IP. Okay. So let us edit the policy accordingly. So the first policy is from port 1 to port 3 and port 3 to port 1. Okay, so one is port 1 to port 3 and the next the thing is port 3 to port 1. Only that's the thing I need to do. Okay, control C and go to the first firewall and add this policy and save the configuration, that is port 1 to port 3, and the second policy is from port 3 to port 1. Okay, so just take a second entry. Control C. So this will save our time. Okay, and save the configuration. Now let us view the policy. Show firewall policy. So now you're able to see port 1 to port 3 and port 3 to port 1. We added the communication. So now let us do a ping from this 10.1 interface. So now PC1 I'm able to reach 10.1. Let us check 10.2 also. 10.2 I am not able to reach. That means still some communication is missing. So we have to check the static route entries here. Prior to that, before doing this, we have to add a policy from here also. Port 2 to port 3 and port 3 to port 2. Let us finish off that configuration, policy configuration. Then we'll come to this intermediate firewall, right? So let us go to firewall 3 and let us add a policy. This is firewall 3. Okay, so one is port 3 to port 2. I hope you are following why we are doing this. Port 3 to port 2, for this particular interface PC to reach this IP, I need to add a policy in this firewall 3. Okay, so let us now add from port 3 to port 2 and port 2 to port 3. Okay, so that is the thing I am doing. Edit one. So just copy it and paste it on my third firewall. Okay, and also save the configuration. Let us now do from port 2 to port 3. So two bi-directional communication I have to enable. So now copy it and paste it on my third firewall. And now let us view the configuration. Show firewall policy. So we're able to see, right, port 2 to port 3 and port 3 to port 2. So now let us do a ping from 40.2 to 20.1. Okay, so 40.2 I'm able to reach 20.1. How about 20.2? So that means still I'm not able to reach this 20.2. Okay, so for that what I can do is I have to check the routing entries over here. We added a policy in this firewall 2 and firewall 1 and 3. Then we also add the static route. So only thing is pending is we have to check the static routing entries in firewall 2. Okay, so let us go to firewall 2 and let us log in with a credential and do a show route static. Okay, sorry, it is get router info routing table all. So you're able to see where the problem lies. So it is only aware of 10 and 20 network, but there is no communication for 30 and the 40 network. Okay, these two networks, but there is no communication for 30 and 40 network. So we have to add a static route. Okay, so config router static edit one and set the destination network. So which network it is going to reach. Okay, so set destination network for 40.2 This is the gateway. 20 dot is a gateway. So 192.168.40.0/24 and set the gateway as, so what is the gateway is 20.1. Okay, 192.168.20.1 and set the device. So this device is port 2 and go to next and add a second entry. So the second entry is for similar way. It is not aware of 30 network. Okay, so we have to add the destination to 30 network with 10.1 as a gateway. Hope you are following this. Okay, so set destination 192.168.30.0/24 and set the gateway. So the gateway is 10.1, right? So 192.168.10.1 and set the device as, what's the device? It is port 1. Okay, so port 1. And now let us save the configuration and let us view the configuration. Show router static. So now it is aware of 40 and the 30 network. So now let us do a ping from PC1 to PC2. Now I should reach. Okay, PC1. Let us directly ping 40.2. So now I am successfully able to reach from PC1 to PC2. Let us check the connectivity from PC2 to PC1. Okay, so let us go here. That is 30.2. So successfully I'm able to reach from PC1 to PC2 and we are able to establish the GRE tunnel between firewall 1 and 3. So there is one more thing for checking the GRE link status. There is one more command is pending. So what's the command is, we have to do config system link monitor. So that will check the monitoring status. How to do that? Edit link monitor name. Let us make it as mon. Okay, and that is the name I'm adding. Now let us add the server. So here the server I can add it as 20.1. So this is for just checking the GRE tunnel status. Okay, the server address is remote, that is a remote server address 192.168.20.1 and set the gateway. So the gateway IP should be, which is a gateway IP 10.2, right? So 192.168.10.2. Okay, 10.2, and then we have to set the interface IP. Then we have to set the interface IP, source interface IP. So the source interface IP should be, that is port 1, right? So port 1, and now let us save the configuration. Similar way, here also we can check the add a link monitor. I'm going to check the GRE status. Let us go to firewall 3. So config system link monitor, add the name as mon and set the server address. This server is nothing but this remote gateway IP. So 192.168.10.1 and set the gateway IP as 20.2. This is a gateway, right? So 192.168.20.2 and set the source interface as, what is the interface name is port 2. Port 2 and just save the configuration. So now let us check the monitoring status. What's the command is diagnose sys link monitor status. So now you can see here the GRE tunnel status it will do. So the tunnel status is alive, and also let us check from the other end also. Diagnose sys link monitor status on the firewall 3. So this is for checking the status. You are able to see the ping state is alive and the GRE tunnel is successfully established between firewall 1 and 3. So for a quick and short summary, what are things we have done is, we have configured the directly connected interfaces, then I configured the GRE tunnel, and in the system interface I mapped the GRE tunnel, and then we added the static route and the policies. So that's all about this configuration, and I hope you enjoy this video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more videos. Thanks and have a wonderful day. Thank you.